So now that we've seen here what the offense can and can't do before the snap, let's look at how are they allowed to move their players around before the snap, and why would they even want to do that in the first place? Why would they want to move their players? So just like the offense, they're lining up in a certain formation. The defense, who's trying to stop them, will be doing the same thing. And so the defense has more leeway because they don't have requirements like the offense has to have 7 guys on the line. The defensive players, they can move wherever they want to. They can stand wherever they want to. As you can see, they can crouch down. They can stand up. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know exactly what they're going to be doing. So the defense is has put in the same amount of preparation as the offense, and they know which guys they're going to cover. So maybe this guy's trying to stop this guy. Maybe this lineman, he's going to come around the outside. Maybe, or other players maybe will try to come on the inside. It all depends on the defense's plan before the game. So when the offense lines up, and they might recognize that the defense is standing in a certain way, so they can do what is called an audible. So an audible just means that offensive team will be changing the play. So before the play, they'll all line up, or they'll all gather around in their huddle, and they'll call out a play. But then once they get up to the line, they can call an audible, which just means that they are going to then change that play. So there's one quarterback he's really well known for this in the NFL, named Peyton Manning. And so he's famous over the past decade or so. He will watch all of the tape of the defensive team during that week, and then he can recognize as soon as he gets out on the field what the defense is going to do, and so that will allow him to audible to try to help his team gain more yards. So the offense, they'll get up to the line, and a lot of quarterbacks do it, but we'll just use Peyton as an example. And so he'll look around and he'll see if he sees something that he recognizes, and if he does, then he'll call an audible. But obviously, he can't just yell out, hey, we're gonna run the ball now instead of pass it like before. Because obviously the defense would hear him, and they would know exactly what he's doing. So he would use certain code words or signals that the offense would know, and so once they would hear that, they'll know that the play has been changed or the play hasn't been changed. You wouldn't only want to yell these codes out whenever you're going to change the play. Maybe you could yell them out when you're not going to change the play, and then that would confuse the defense as to what the codes are or what they aren't. And so sometimes these codes and calling an audible will involve changing the formation. So the rules allow this, and they say that the players are allowed to shift, but what they have to do is they must come to a complete stop in a set position simultaneously for at least 1 second before that ball is snapped. So that is this complete stop that those players must come to. So there's really 2 different ways to look at as far as pre-snap movement is talking about. And so the first one is a shift, and then the second one would be to send a man in motion or just motion. So these are the 2 different ways that guys are allowed to move. So a shift would be where multiple guys are moving. So this will be multiple players moving. So maybe the quarterback gets up to the line, and he sees that instead of having his tight end or his wide receiver on the right side of the field, maybe he thinks they should be over on the left. So Peyton would probably step back and he would say green 42 or whatever the audible call would be. And so then his players would hear that. His tight end, he would run over to the other side of the field, and at the same time his running back or his wide receiver would run over the other side of the field as well. So then once those players then move to the other side of the field, they would have to come to that complete stop where they stop for a second. And so then the team would then have a few options. They could shift again, so they could send the players back to the other side of the field if they wanted to, or they could just snap the ball, or they could send the man in motion. And so first of all, the shift, they have to come to the complete stop, and that's for all of the players involved have to come to that complete stop before snapping the ball. Whereas sending a man in motion, this is only allows for one player at a time. So maybe just the wide receiver will go in motion, so he'll run across to the other side. And remember, he's got to stay up. If he's on the line before he starts, he's going to have to come over here and make sure they still have those 7 guys on that line. So if the man goes in motion, it's one player at a time. But unlike shifting, if you send one man in motion, he does not have to come to a complete stop. So the ball can be snapped. Can be snapped while the player is in motion. And so really the only other stipulation about a player going in motion is that he cannot be moving toward the line of scrimmage. So as I just demonstrated there, he can run across, and so they say he can be running away from or parallel to the line of scrimmage, but he cannot run back here, and then the team says that they're putting him in motion, and so he's going to get a running start, and whenever he's right here, they snap the ball, and so he can continue on. You are not allowed to do that in the NFL. In some other leagues, like the Arena Football League, you are allowed to do that, and that would certainly put the defender at disadvantage, because this receiver would already have a running head start. But as far as the NFL goes, you are not allowed to do that. You aren't allowed to move toward the line of scrimmage while you are in motion. So once that player goes in motion, runs to the other side of the field, and he stops, then because it's one player at a time, another player is allowed to go in motion. So shift, multiple guys are moving, but then you have to come to that stop after. Motion, just one player at a time. But you can shift and you can send as many guys in motion before the snap as you can. But remember that we had that play clock that's ticking down, so you probably won't have a lot of time to be shifting and sending guys in motion all over the place. So you'll rarely see that much pre-snap movement. But as far as shifting, sending guys in motion, and what you have to and what you cannot do before the snap, that pretty much sums it all up right there.